So most men don't ruin their relationships because they're abusive or uncaring. They lose them because they quietly repeat these same 10 things I see time and again with the hundreds of men that I've coached, right? Hundreds of guys I've sat down in conversation with. And when we dive into it, there's these 10 things that men do that ruin their relationships, right? And here's the uncomfortable part. If you've ever said to yourself, I don't know what she wants, right? I'm trying my best. It just feels like everything I do is never good enough, right? Then there's a good chance that you are doing at least one, if probably not multiple of these 10 things, right? And it's not because you're bad, or you're lazy, or you're stupid. It's that we never get taught how to be men in relationships, how to be a great man in relationships. What's a good man? A great man in relationships, right? And as I said, I've sat down with hundreds of men, coached them everything from CEOs, entrepreneurs, down to teachers and everything in between, right? And I see the same patterns time and again. I'm going to share those 10 with you today, right? And so that you can do something about it. So you can stop repeating these patterns, because I used to do these, right? Some of them I still do sometimes. Even with the awareness I have, I still do them. But you can stop this now and you can start to change the direction, right? Because I imagine that you're a smart, intelligent, caring man who wants to be a better man, right? And I'm not here to attack men. I've got so much love and support for men. My whole business, my whole content, my podcast, videos are all about how to support men to be better, how to support men to be more caring, more loving, and get what they want from relationships, more happiness, more joy, more connection. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the 10. I'm not even going to give you solutions, to be honest. I'm going to run through them and tell you like how I connect to them, how I see these men time and time again. And if you find these useful, I want you to do a couple of things. First, just like the video. Makes a massive difference. You know, people keep saying to me, dropping comments going, I love your videos. They're so good. Like, I'm not sure why you don't get so many views. Like my video. That just goes a really long way. And two, if you find these to be really useful, right? These pointers. I've got a program called Relate coming out. It's starting in March, right? It's an ongoing program. So if you're listening to this in December, you should contact me still. And I really support men in solving these issues and creating more joy and happiness in their relationships, and also supporting men who are single in the art and the skills of creating happy, healthy relationships. Right. So we start with the first one. Number one. This one is something I'm guilty of, and every man is to some degree. You're reactive to your partner's emotions, right? That aren't really related to what's happening. So really what's happening in these moments is you have had some experience in the past. Say, for instance, it could go back to childhood. It could be a past partner, right? Where something comes up with your partner now and you are reacting to the emotions, not what's happening now, not what's in the present moment, but what happened before, and you're reliving this, you are reacting, reacting out something from the past, right? Say, for instance, your partner says to you, what time are you going to be home? I'm using this one because it's something that used to happen to me a lot. The thing that gets triggered in me is this feeling I've had before with my mother, with ex-partners, who I feel that they're trying to control me and my time, right? They're trying to pigeonhole me into doing the things that they want me to do. So I react with an over-the-top response like, why ask me that for? And my partner's like, wow, what's going on? And if we weren't as aware we are, we end up in some sort of conflict. They're like, why are you talking to me like that? I'm not talking to you about anything, and then we're in a conflict. Because you are responding to what's not happening here, what's happening something in the past. And this is really important, because if you don't solve this, you always create these micro moments where you are reacting to the wrong thing in the wrong way. You're not giving the person with you grace and understanding, right? Really important. Number two, this is something as men we are really guilty of, right? We're really guilty of this is because what happens is we spend so much time in our heads, especially if you work in the sort of career that I used to have, which is like tech, analytics, finance, all these sorts of worlds where you're thinking a lot, processing information a lot, and doing all this logical stuff, right? So you're in your head all the time. If you've seen the Hormozi podcast with Tony Robbins, this is what he's talking about. You're in your head all the time and you're not connected to your heart, your feeling, or even the present moment, right, inside your relationship. And this causes all sorts of problems. This is connected to the one I said before around responding emotionally to things that aren't happening now. Your partner will feel like you're not really there. You're not really present. You're not really paying attention. You're not really engaged. You're not really open, right? all these sorts of things. Like they feel alone. Even when you're sitting next to each other and you're in the same room. If you've heard these sentences, this is what it is. You're in your head, you're not in your body, you're not feeling, you're not present enough. And that's where so much is going amiss in your relationship. Number 3, and this is a very common one. This is something that really comes up for me, and I have to fight this, is you assume that your partner, right, that she will respond negatively to anything, right, to anything you say or certain things you say, right? So example, you want to tell her that you're going to go out with your mates, right? You're going to go out with your boys on Friday night. You're going to go to a party or something. I'm saying this because this is something that I was speaking to also about just now, literally a couple of hours ago. 2 of my friends were like, hey man, let's go see this DJ I really like in London. You up for it? I was like, yeah, cool, man. They sent me a message and I was like, okay, go speak to Orso because we got all boys, so we need to manage that. Now, many of you are feeling scared to even have this conversation because you're assuming that she's going to say no. You're assuming that she's going to be like, how dare you ask? There's some part of you that's catastrophizing the response and it stops you from even moving forward, right? And that's just a request. This can come up with sharing stuff about how you feel, sharing stuff what's going on in your life, sharing dreams and hopes you have for the future, right? Or things you want to do to make the relationship better, but you assume the negativity and the negativity that you feel in that moment when the assumption happens. The fear, the anxiety, the worry, it stops you from communicating. And this done over time really makes you drift apart in a relationship. If you're feeling disconnected and like you don't know each other, it's because you keep withholding things, right? Or you keep appeasing, or you keep self-censoring, right? Massive, massive, massive problem, right? Number 4, it's connected to the one above, but it's slightly different in that you don't communicate what you want and need. As men, we are chronically really bad at expressing what we want and need. The reason for this is that we are not connected to our feelings well enough to have a clear idea, right? So we often say the things we want and need that we think we should want and need, or we've been told, or other people want and need, but maybe are not truly our own. Or we know what we want and need and we're scared to say it. We're scared to open up, right? So you're wanting to keep peace, not wanting to cause any issue or experience any rejection and told no, so you don't speak about it, right? And over time, again, you end up creating a relationship that doesn't contain the things you want and need. So you create a relationship that isn't what you want, that you don't enjoy. Very, very important thing, because you do that and you have a very, very unhappy relationship over time. I've met men who've been in marriages for 10, 20 years that have done this for 10, 20 years and they're miserable. And I've worked with men to help them bring that back together. And it can, work wonders when you do that. It's like a whole new relationship again. And, got messages from partners who are like, I'm so grateful that my man has come to work with you, right? Number 5, this is an important one. Something we really tackle a lot in Relate, because it's always connected to the rest that I've talked about, showing up, opening up, sharing, not being in your head. You lack leadership and direction in a relationship. Something I've been thinking about a bit, come off a conversation I had with one of my clients. We talked about leadership, management, and authority, right? He's a man, he's used to be in the armed forces. And he said he can tell you the difference between these things and who's suited to these jobs. One of the things that happens is, as a man, often we allow our partner to manage the relationship. They manage all the aspects, the kids, the communication with the outside world, the school stuff, the family stuff, the house stuff, the washing, blah, blah, blah. This is what's commonly known as like emotional load, right? Mental load that women carry. And we don't do any management and we don't do any leadership, right? And then sometimes we want authority, right? Some of us will feel like we want authority because we feel like, I'm the man, I should have respect. But actually what we need to bring in is more leadership, right? The management is important and taking on some of that is important, but leadership, which is like giving your relationship some direction. Like, where's it going? What do you guys want to feel? What are some activities you want to do? Like naming that and noticing the leadership, healthy leadership, which is being attuned to the people or persons that you are leading, attuned emotionally to their needs, their wants, their desires, their dreams, even the things that they don't say, and being like, I feel this is something, why don't we have a date night next week? Why don't we do this thing? Right? And I get it, man. Like, you're busy with work, you're running shit, you're, financing the house, all these things are stressful. There, right? But if you don't bring this to a relationship, your partner will become grumpy, angry, frustrated, and often not wanting to have sex with you, right? That happens so often. I speak to a lot of men about this one. Yeah, they come to me with, we don't have sex anymore. And then we realize what it is. There's a lack of communication and leadership from the man. Really, really common. Number 6, you hang your self-worth on the approval of your woman. Really common this is. So this is tied to point number, just looking at my list here. Point number 3 and 4 around assuming negativity and not communicating what you want. You assume that if she says no to you, that means that you are lesser than, you're not good enough, right? And it also means that she can feel you as almost like a bit of a child, right? Because that's what we do as children. We're looking for the approval of our parents. And this is one of these massive ones that kills sexual polarity and connection, because it's like you're always trying to do the right thing, say the right thing so that she approves of you, right? And she feels you like a child, right? You're not really an equal in the relationship. She's the adult and you're the child. And it's like unhooking your approval out from her. So her yeses or no's mean you're good or bad. Her saying yes to things and her approving of what you do and disapproving what you do become what you're searching for all the time. And it stops you from communicating what you want to say and doing the things you want to do and actually leading the relationship and taking action in the relationship because you're so concerned about if she approves or doesn't approve. 7, important one. You become really critical of your partner, right? I get it. In our head, sometimes we have very vicious inner critics. This is something that I possess. A lot of the men that I speak to, a lot of avoidant men in particular, possess very vicious inner critics. Maybe our fathers were critical, or our mothers were critical with us, or no one really taught us how to speak to ourselves well. So we're really critical of everybody in our heads, and it spills out into our words. Right? Got it. You watch it. Even though your criticism might be coming off as like, I'm trying to help. It's not helping. It's creating a chasm between you. It's creating resentment. It's creating anger and frustration. Number 8. You are apprehensive to support your partner's growth and expansion. This one is one that men very rarely say out loud. It kind of seeps in around worrying about, if she's going and doing that stuff, it comes up as jealousy, right? As like a fear of being left. Your partner starts going to self-development stuff or starts reading books. And often how we first meet this is kind of like, that stupid thing that she's doing. It's all silly. She doesn't need to do that. But underneath it is you're eroding away her kind of desire to grow because of your own fears that she's going to leave you. She's going to outgrow you. She won't need you, right? She won't need your identity anymore, right? And this one's easily solved by just meeting her in the growth, because it does happen. I think it probably happens to men more than women. I see it a lot with men I work with where they're growing and their partners aren't, right? And it becomes very problematic in a relationship because we aren't built to just stay the same. The human race is built to evolve, right? And we're all part of that evolution. Number 9, we're almost at the end. You don't cultivate a depth of sexual intimacy. This is an interesting one, right? Because often what happens, I see, is one of the reasons why men don't get sex in their relationships, relationship becomes sexless, is because they stop with variety and the sex that they're introducing is the same. So they have the same script for initiation, they have the same script for the things they run through, and there's no depth to it. There's no feeling. It's just bodies rubbing, right? There's no communication of what they enjoy. There's no sound. There's no spontaneity. There's no merging of two humans and feeling deeply with each other. It becomes functional, performative. And then it starts to disappear because neither of you want it. Or one of you wants it and the other one doesn't, right? I think it's the number one reason women don't want sex. It's because they don't want this sort of functional sex. Number 10, last one. You become dysfunctional with your sexual energy, right? This is where you start to leak your sexual energy out. You start lusting after other women constantly. You're watching a lot of porn. This can kind of verge on emotional affairs or just straight sexual affairs, right? Where all this sexual thought you have, sexual feeling you have is directed outwards, externally. right? Maybe it's you just walking down the street, seeing women and being lusty, looking and staring and so forth. You're in the gym or something like that. You start doing this, it starts to leak out of your sexual energy out of the relationship, right? And then for many men, it causes a kind of straying eye, comparison and so forth. So you got to rein it in, right? Reining it in, you got to redirect it, and how you redirect it is also really important. So you've got the 10. I'm not going to recap, but I'm sure you see yourself in some of these, right? And if you're in the comments, you're thinking, David, this is what my woman does. This isn't for her. This is for you. Yeah, that's a deflection tactic when we do that. When we say, oh, this isn't for, my woman does that, not me. That's called defensiveness. Yeah, that's how we avoid looking at ourselves and looking at the strands or the 5% of the moment when we do that thing, and we can start doing a thing about it because, hey, I'm not talking to her, I'm talking to you. So if you enjoyed this podcast, like I said, like it, share it with somebody, tell the world about it. You know, I've had a few men come to me recently and tell me how useful the podcast has been. You know, you can be that guy to one of your friends. And if you want to go deeper into these issues and start to solve them, right? That's really do something about them. Like I said, I got my program Relate. It's going to be a group of wonderful men. We're going to go deep into these things, the patterns, like polarity, how we connect with women. A lot of it's going to be mainly online. So you're going to have to just consume it as you want. And it also has live sections in there as well. If you're interested, there's a waitlist down below. Just send his name in there. You'll get an email and we can have a chat. You get to actually talk to me one-to-one. Or you can come into my program. Perfect. All right. Have a wonderful week.